Welcome to Talking in Stations. This is Matterall. It's May 4th. No, March 4th. It's not what is it? May the 4th be with you yet. It's March 4th. And today we're going to pick up kind of where we left off yesterday and talk a little bit about mining in EVE Online. So we'll go back to that topic since we left a lot on the table. I want to introduce again our friend Nick Bison. How you doing, Nick?
Good evening. Doing well, thank you.
Good. And joining us is also a miner, I guess a master miner, is Astraeos Khan or Khan, right?
Yeah, Khan's just fine. And good evening, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Let's get to know you a little bit, Khan. Tell us about your background.
Well, just a quick breakdown. I've done faction warfare for pretty much the majority of my EVE career. Started the game back in late 2008. Joined up with the militia back in probably 2009. Ever since then, I've kind of been in the faction warfare type of area. Did that for a little bit, and then probably in late 2010, I kind of started getting into LP missions and producing ships, and from there, I kind of slowly got more into mining. Just fast forwarding to 4 years ago, I left faction warfare due to boredom mostly, and I got into mining. And then from there, I joined a group of alts from the militia and other miners in a system called Demelin. And from there, we kind of grew a small collection of miners building moon infrastructures. And then from there, I kind of got my pathway into mining. From my faction warfare days, I already had a couple of alts that I was using for producing ships, farming LP missions with, and just rudimentary stuff. And then from there, I took those alts kind of into low sec mining, and then high sec mining. Fast forwarding, trying to give you a quick TLDR. Fast forwarding into when moon mining was amazing. I had basically took my small collection of characters and just figured out ways to just not only get the most bang for my buck.
Oops, did I accidentally mute you or something?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I think my mic went off a little bit. But basically, I just used the income that I had gained from the moon mining, created alts, which kind of expanded my income. I've done everything in high sec from ice mining now, with roaming from system to system to low sec mining. I recently just got into null sec mining. Now I'm just kind of more or less just a guy that likes to support my allies either with production or ISK.
Yeah, you're. What's the group you're with now? Is it called Damn Fam or something?
Yeah, it's called Damn Fam.
Yeah, what's that? What's that mean?
It's Damelin family or Dam Fam. It's a play on Panda Fam, Pan Fam or whatever, but we just put Dam and put it's a silly name, but yeah. But it started as a industry wing for Ushra'Khan, and then we kind of just grew into our own deal, our own thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up your name because you have different names. So why don't you actually just type it to me so I stop guessing so I can bring up your portrait?
Yeah, I got you on.
Yeah, well, I think it's really cool that you went into faction war, and now that you're doing mining, because you're trying different things, you're still attached to faction war. So you do a lot of mining for your faction, Minmatar space.
Yeah, exactly. I've done things from my biggest project was back when Ushra'Khan was first going to get into nullsec. I basically funded all of the structures, and it ended up being 30 billion raised by me in
Wow.
1 month. And that was all strictly. This is after the moon mining changes that took in effect, so I couldn't obviously take advantage of that. But it was all from ice mining. So I remember actually when I was doing it, I would wake up early in the day, and then I would this is pretty oppressive, but I would take my 14 orcas and I would just roam system to system, compress the ice, and then whenever I got full of ice, I would just take it somewhere and sell it.
Could the orca compress ice? or how'd you compress it?
Well, the stations usually
okay.
in the systems that actually had ice, there was already citadels that can do reprocessing. So I would just compress them there, and then I would just take them with me to the next system.
That's wild. 14 orcas. You were multi-boxing 14 orcas. This is before orcas were in style.
No, this is around the time they were still in style.
Well, how long ago
It's just that
when did they come into style again recently?
Well, I had started to take a note of them when moon mining was very popular. When you still had the Arcanor and the Crocite rocks, they were good because you had like massive amounts of M3. But you when you're doing that, you don't really want to sit there and mine all day. So you would. My thinking was I would just get a whole bunch, just sit there instead of like get a whole bunch of mining barges and just drop cans and risk getting them stolen and stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, I got your portrait up. Kind of intimidating for a miner. One of my favorite things that PvPers say to miners is, "Whoa, miner." Has anybody ever said that to you?
Whoa, miner? No, I don't.
Or
I
whoa
don't
there,
think I've
miner.
heard that.
No, I've heard that somewhere. Anyway, so tell us about like low sec and what it's like to mine there now. Maybe even in contrast to what it might have been, a while ago.
Low sec's dangerous. I mean, right now I've kind of stopped I've kind of stopped mining in low sec as much because there's a lot of groups that are just looking to hot drop you whenever they get the chance. But the money's there.
Isn't Domelin low sec? Am I mistaken?
Demelin's 0.5.
Oh, it's right on the verge.
So
Okay.
it's right next to Olfheim and Bossburger, where it's right next to Olfheim and Bossburger, which is kind of like the systems that I mostly mine in.
Yeah, it's Demelin, DEM.
Yeah, if you type in DAM, it should pop up
right?
for you. Mm-hmm.
Survey says no. I'll find it. I know where it is on the map. Actually, I lied. It's in Metropolis, right? Minmatar.
Should be in Himitar, yeah.
Yeah, you're right here near Amamaki, I think.
Mm-hmm. Just a few jumps.
There it is. Damn. DAMM. Ah, that's where I went wrong. Damn fam in Damelin. What is the big deal with Minmatar space? Why is there so much? There's a lot of attention, more so than I think ever. Something's going on in Minmatar space. What is it?
I honestly couldn't tell you, man. I don't know why people are. Maybe because it's so cheap to buy stuff out here. Still,
Mm-hmm.
You can basically get everything from Ren's pretty cheap. Whenever I sell out there, things are getting just bought up real fast. So they can just maybe the prices.
Well, there's something about. Let's actually look at belts since that's more interesting here. Damelin 12 belts, yeah. Ren's was always cheaper. Like Armara was always more expensive than Jita, and Ren's was always cheaper than Jita. I never could figure that out. I guess I think it might have been Ren's being Hamatar is actually closer to drones. So maybe drones were dumping stuff on Ren's. It doesn't make much sense, but that was the only thing I could think of.
Well, I mean, Ren's was dead for a while. I think now, actually, after the whole Poshman thing, is when we really started to see people start moving back there. Heck was always where you wanted to do all your trading at.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I guess, even further back than before Heck was a competitor to Ren's. But you're right, Heck actually took that spot. Heck and Ren's together equaled Dodixie as far as transactions in the market. But Ren's was dead. Really died around 2011 or 12. It was pretty early. And you're saying now that Ren's has kind of made a comeback?
Yeah, most definitely. There's 5 large mining blocks in the Abudan a la carte. That's weird system. It's right next to Damelin and Damfam. We actually have 2 or 3 corporations that live there, and we're all basically just selling in RINs or selling amongst each other. So, between all these corporations that are mining ice and mining the belt ore plus the low sec ore, and now that we're also jumping null sec ore to high sec, RINs is kind of becoming a little bit more competitive.
Oh man, it's good to hear. All right, so you don't mine in low sec.
I do.
Okay, you just don't do it as much as you do high sec.
I don't do low sec primarily anymore. For a while, I was. I was running around with warp core stabilizer, procurers or coveters or whatever, just trying to run from pirates. But it's gotten to the point where it's kind of a little bit too tedious to mine down there, and you can do easier activities and not have to worry about the extra stress, I guess is what I'm just trying to say. So I do
Yeah,
it if there's a need to, but if there's not, then I would look for other ways to make money.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, scarcity. Well, first of all, Nick, have you been to Minmatar space at all? Done anything around there?
Yeah, actually, years ago I lived down there, um,
Hmm.
and actually it was in Derelict is where I was at, and had a mining. We had a core had a mining camp down there. It was when the ores were still separated out by Empire. Uh, we would head down there for a week at a shot.
Yeah, let's have a closer look at Minmatar space since we're talking about it. So you were derelict down here. That's actually Amatar space. Interesting. That's right. Forget about that. And
Yeah, we were hanging out. I believe it was J- Jaiz or Jaiz something was the system we were hanging out in. It was 2 away from an ice belt, actually 2 away from 2 ice belts, so we could, you know, do a little ore, do a little ice, whatever tickled our fancy at the time.
yeah, well, probably back then ice was a real good thing to mine because it was infinite, unlike asteroid belts would disappear after a while. But that changed a little while ago. Okay, so let's go back to. All right, so tell us how you mine, like Khan. What are some tips for beginners? Obviously, you're not a beginner. If you can run 8 orcas at the same time, or I'm sure you've done all kinds of different combinations and stuff. What would you say to somebody who is interested in getting involved with mining? Maybe not a new player, but somebody who wants to like dabble into it. Since minerals are so expensive right now, like some people might be looking at it as like a side gig or something.
I have a weird perspective on mining. What I would tell somebody to focus on is do something that you'll do and you won't burn out. And usually, 7 times out of 10, if you're in high, you would want to probably stick with moon orders. Moon orders. Excuse me, I can't talk today. Because the yield's so high, you don't have to worry about having to move around belts as often. And since the rock is also big, you can just put some mining drones on there, and you could just kind of just chill back and enjoy it. Instead of making it like a work type of thing, you can do this activity that will definitely get you some money on top of that, especially if you go after moon ore that has the glistening, the glistening. I think is what it is, whatever it is. Ores, which are actually pretty profitable if you can find somebody to reprocess for you. But as far as an activity goes, I would recommend doing that versus belt ore because belt ore it's tedious. You have to retarget everything. You have to move around the belts as much and all that jazz. And if you do that as a solo miner, it can kind of, unless you're mining with somebody who can pick up your ore, it can become very tedious and you will burn out. So whenever I would recommend something to somebody, I would say do it so that you can continuously do it and not want to bang your head on the keyboard.
Right, and all those little seconds of switching meteors or asteroids and switching every little time you have to interact with the ship is time wasted, I imagine, and that just kind of starts to work on your productivity.
Right.
That's definitely a individual style. Um, I'm kind of on the opposite end of that, where I'll run. I mean, I have multiple Orca, perfect booster accounts, but when I go out and belt mine, it's one Orca and four Mackinaws because I enjoy the interaction. It doesn't, for my particular play style, that's fun. So yeah, different folks find it different ways.
Right. You were saying yesterday you actually liked mining, the act of mining and everything.
Yeah, that scares some people.
Yeah.
I have a question from the audience here. And if you guys have questions, go ahead and put them in chat. Let's see here. Okay, question is from Mick Beggar. Ask him what he thinks of the using expedition frigates in low sec. Have you ever done that?
I have not myself, but yeah, I mean they're perfect for that type of work. They're fast, they have a big enough cargo space for you to obviously do what you need to do, and they're nimble. But no ship is 100% safe, so you can have an expedition frigate, but if you don't know how to use your D scan, it doesn't really do you any good. But I recommend it if you want to go down that route.
Yeah. What do you mean by D scan? You have to see what's around you and get out as soon as you see something going on.
Yes, I mean D scan's important in low sex. If anything pops up, and you're not watching your D scan, it's probably already too late for you to get out. All it takes is somebody just to warp in and drop a cyno, and you're already caught. Which is another thing. Warp core stabilizers. A lot of people make fun of people using them, but they'll save your butt out there. I recommend using that over mining upgrades and all that stuff. You don't really need too many, but if you put enough on, it could save your butt. The only downfall, of course, is your CPU is also your range. So you also got to kind of make sure that you're getting close enough to the asteroid, but not close enough to where you're bumping, so you can't align out.
It's a little. You kind of have to thread that needle, right? So the stabs or warp core stabilizers, they're called stabs. Those are the nicknames. Those things can prevent you from being tackled, basically. And for each stab that you put on, it's considered 1 point. And you get into a point system with the people who are tackling you. Sometimes they tackle you with 1 point. Sometimes they tackle you with 2 points. Sometimes you get two people tackling you with 2 points or 3 points. So it's just it's a game. But the most any one person can tackle you with, if they're not specialized, I think a hit can do more, is 2 points. And they have to be really close to you to do that. So what normally a tackler will do is use a 1 point scram or disruptor and get you from a range. So normally if you put on a stab, you equal his point. And that makes, I think the tie goes to the defender, so you get to leave. He's not going to tackle you because it's a 1 versus 1. Defender wins. If he's close to you and puts 2 points on you, you're going to lose that. So what normally people do that want to get away is they put 2 stabs on, sometimes 3, if you want to be really cautious. So 2 or 3 stabs and you're good. But what that does, because the stab has drawbacks, and the drawback is that your range is cut down dramatically. So you'd have to get closer to the target that you want to use or want to shoot. And so that's kind of a choice in gameplay. You're either going to be able to escape, but you have to get in really close to whoever you're shooting, or you're going to be able to shoot at range, but not be able to escape. That's the choice you have to make with the stabs, basically. And so this is a funny point that if you get too close to an asteroid because you have too many stabs on, then you might bump into it on your way out and actually get caught that way. Kind of funny.
And I'm not making fun of anybody. I've actually done that 3 times when I haven't been paying attention, so that's why I brought up that. It's like bumping on the asteroid and there's a Black Ops coming in. It's actually pretty funny.
It's the most astonishing feeling of like, wait a minute, why isn't this working? This game's broken. Why am I not getting out? And it turns out you're bumping into something. Yeah. All right. So multi-boxing, that's got to be a challenge. You're doing a ton of orcas. Do you do other kinds of ships, or is it mostly just orcas?
I don't actually use orcas anymore. I was doing it mostly for the value of the moons, but since they're kind of well, I'll do it for ice, but if I'm doing like any belt mining, I'll use coveters usually. Luckily in my area, there isn't too many gankers, so I don't have to really be cautious about fitting. Now that I'm probably saying that, I'm probably gonna
Yeah,
have
they're
to
gonna
look
come
over my
after you.
shoulder. But yeah, coveters with mining upgrades and a little bit of tank in the mid slots. And I don't see, my thing is I try to, so I'll probably bring like one booster and the rest in barges, and I'll just warp back and forth to the Citadel, and I'll just bookmark my spots, and I'll just do it that way usually. Because you can
Yeah.
warp to a Citadel and you can obviously deposit the ore in there, so you don't have to worry when you're a multi-boxer. At least for the way I do it, I don't like to work too hard. And whenever you're having to open fleet hanger, drop ore into that fleet hanger and all that stuff,
Mhm.
and then after you completely and you go to the next belt, you have to reset up everything. So it becomes kind of tedious whenever you're doing like 8 Astros a day. So I try to cut down as much of the unnecessary work as possible.
All right, here's a question for both you guys from Varag 101 question. How would you guys feel if CCP delete excavators when and if they make changes to the Rorqual?
I don't use them.
For me personally, I would be much in favor of that. I never thought the Rourke nor the Orca should be mining platforms. They were designed as industrial command ships to run the fleet, boost the fleet, and carry the ore. So, yeah, I wouldn't. And I'm one of those guys that after the Rourke changes, I was out there in four Rourkes tearing it up because I could. Prior to that, I was one of the two Rourke pilots in the alliance that had perfect boosts. So we would organize mining fleets around the availability of Rourke pilots.
I think if we're comparing the orcas and the rogues and the I can't talk, I swear, in the same category to where they shouldn't be able to mine. At least from the orcas perspective, I think that's good because orcas themselves are kind of very oppressive, and as far as the investment that you get, how how long they usually live, as long as you're not getting killed by rats, you usually can make that money back up 10, 15 times fold. But I do think that CCP needs to address the reasons why people use orcas. Usually because it's because the other mining barges, as far as tank goes, they're not um, they're not very reliable in the sense to where you can usually survive a gank reliably. So basically, what I'm just trying to say, I'm just kind of jambling, is I think CCP needs to look to the reasons why people use them and either fix the mechanics behind that or actually buff the other ships to make it to people to where people would feel comfortable using them. And another conversation too is, when you look at the price of a mining barge, a fully fitted mining barge is almost the cost of a battle cruiser, but yet it almost has the tank of a destroyer. Those are just things that I feel like, me personally, CCP would need to. Not they don't need to do it, but I feel like as a gameplay balance, I feel like they should address those things, and not also do that, but they should also change the Orca to be what it should be, which is a mobile command unit. Basically healing the ships, boosting the ships, and hauling the ore.
Yeah, protecting the fleet.
Right.
Being the mothership to those skiffs that are out there doing the mining should have been their role. I got switched a while ago. We won't talk about that right now. We've talked about it many times, but let me take you guys back. I have a question of my own because I got somebody said Roke, not or Rorqual, not Roke, which is kind of funny. These are two different ships. The Roke is actually a battleship, and the Rorqual is the capital mining command ship. So That took me back to early on in EVE when battleships used to be the favored miners. Did you guys ever use battleships to mine?
I personally did not had it, but I did have a corp mate. This was like 2007. Rolled out there. He finally got into battleships, and he came out with a roke, all set up for it. And I swear to God, he was dragging ore every 6 to 8 seconds into a can because it would, cargo hold small when you're running, 6 mining lasers.
I never used a battleship, but I did try haulers at one time. I would feel like
Yeah.
one of those little small lasers and just go AFK.
You're master AFK or yeah.
Yeah.
I did that too, actually. When my first I thought I was so smart when I started this game, right? You come into the game and you're an adult and you're smart and you're going to master this really quickly. And so my first mistake was I need a mine. I want to mine with more lasers. A destroyer has more high slots. I'll put a bunch of mining lasers on a destroyer. So I did it. And as soon as I aimed them all at one asteroid and I hit F1, F2, F3 to activate all those lasers, my capacitor went to 0 and everything turned off. And I thought, okay, not a good idea. So then I thought, all right, I'll do the opposite. I'll just get an industrial ship. It has one high slot and I'll put one laser on it and I'll go to sleep. And that's what I did. And again, I thought I was, I thought I had it all figured out basically.
It's funny, always coming back to the keyboard, finding my ship blown up too.
Is that right? Hey, yeah. What's it like working with, faction warriors on the Minmatar side of things? Mostly Ushra'Khan, right?
Yeah, I mean it's like it's like having any other. It's not anything different from being allied to like goons or anything. Whenever there's important ops, we all kind of just ping out to each other, and we all commit to help when we can. Given a good example, Snuff's back in the area, so we all kind of.
What's that mean to you guys?
Means get your productions canceled, or if you have any plans for starting production, don't do it, and get all your stuff out of the stations because most likely we're not going to be able to save them.
That means don't get any industrial processes going because they will be interrupted and lost by an attack from Snuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like a seasonal thing. Well, before it was like once a year. Now it feels like it's 3 or 4 times a year where we have to like stop everything and then rebuild. And it's funny, it's like we're just kind of get to the point where it's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and get another one bought and just get everything replaced. They'll be back in 2 months or something.
So they're more like weather to be put up with, not to be resisted.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Arcia said nullsec has metaliminal storms. Lowsec has Snuff.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And it doesn't matter what we do; we can never stop them.
And they can't be dealt with diplomatically either, right?
We've never really tried to be friends with Snuff, so I don't really know. I know everybody who I'm friends with hates Snuff, and I don't think we would ever want to like negotiate with them. It's like negotiating with terrorists.
Yeah, that's something you're gonna do. I think they've really turned on they've really broken so many contracts. Like at this point, I don't see anybody really negotiating with them anymore. They're literally just safe because they do not go into deep waters of nullsec or ever risk too much. That's their safety, and then they just punch down to just about everybody else. I haven't seen them take on any fights that have been close in a while.
They have. There was one fight, but there was one battle back 2 years ago where everybody
that's not a while, but 2 years ago, what happened?
Well, yeah, but everybody in the faction warfare, Amar and Minmatar Space Allied, and there were some other low-sec corporations that were going to take them on, and they came in with a whole bunch of like Titans and Faxes, and And as far as the numbers go, I mean, they were pretty comparable to what we had, but just a lot of logi, so we couldn't obviously beat them. But they took the fight.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember that. That was pretty exciting. I mean, it's always nice. We've had some occasions, and I think this is what CCP says to small guys, right? It's like, hey, group up and help each other out, and then you can resist the storm as it comes. And we saw that happen in Wicked Creek with, you remember that group Ebola? Well,
I remember the name.
Yeah, they were an alliance that came into Wicked Creek, and Wicked Creek at the time was there was just kind of a lot of little groups in and around there. And what Ebola would do, they made a mistake. See, when you go into an area and you want to conquer it for whatever reason, is you act like you're not dangerous and you conquer one at a time. And when the people complain that you're conquering, you say, oh, no, it was a misunderstanding. And you placate everybody else so you don't upset the balance of the area. And you slowly eliminate them one at a time until you conquer most of them. But what they did is they came in and they made a huge pronouncement that they were going to subjugate the whole region. So the whole region said, we don't want to be subjugated. Let's get together and fight them off. And so they actually grouped up early on and were able to repel and defend themselves from this Ebola group. And they defeated them and actually broke them up. So it was kind of like, the good guys win in that sense, the little guy.
Well, in that case, I mean, kind of look at when, they were, when pre-Imperium, when they were up north and wanted to put in the Viceroy program prior to the First World War B, and that the low-sec folk kind of teamed up together to say no, and they were pretty successful at it.
Yeah. So Beta Solo says you described World War B, or what is it? World War B2, I guess, is what you meant. WW2? No, World War II. Oh, never mind. Yeah, something else. Yeah, anyway, back to mining. Let's talk to people who aren't like as good as you are yet at mining, but they kind of are interested in this area. Is there like some tips that you guys would give newer players when you're starting out, some things to avoid even, or some things to make sure you do?
For some of the newer folk, especially if they're in that path and want that exhumer, um, I personally am a big fan of the Mackinac, and the reason being is you can fit a respectable tank on it, and it has that huge ore hold, 35,000 M3, so you don't have to run back and forth as often, and you don't have to jet can. So that's kind of the one I lean toward.
What are you, Khan?
But I guess the advice part of that, and again, personal preference. Some of the folks want to slap as many mining laser upgrades on there as they can, and that's going to gimp your tank pretty hard. So, your play style, your choice, but you're still looking at an outfitted Mac is still going to run you about 250. So, roll the dice, take your chances.
I kind of agree with that too. Like Macs are good. It's usually better to fit tank over mining yield. Don't ever jet can is another good tip I would give people, because that's usually 9 times out of 10 going to end out bad for you. And another important thing as far as trying to get established as mining is, I feel like relationships are important. So whenever you're starting out early on, just try to find a builder you can build a relationship with, and get a good relationship built with them. Sometimes even sell them cheaper than normal so they can kind of exclusively buy from you. And if the time ever comes, do favors for them so they would do favors for you. Say, for example, you lose your retriever. 9 times out of 10, if your friend who you've been helping out for a long time, hey, I need to get a retriever built. You mind building it for me for free? Usually they'll build that for you for free. So I think relationships are important, and just try to you just just try to um, join a very respectable corporation as well that can kind of help you with your mining, giving you boost, giving you hauling, and all that stuff, so you can obviously enjoy the activity versus just being by yourself.
Yeah, what do you think of corporate help in terms of like buyback programs? Are there any things you should be aware of, look for as a good thing, look out for as a bad thing when it comes to corporations that you may not know very well when you join them?
I mean, most definitely when you join a corporation, like always kind of, be careful whenever you are working with. Don't settle for very like bad returns for yourself. Like say for example, if a corp's like, hey, if you give us this ore, we'll pay you back once we produce all the ships. Like I've known a couple corporations that would get like the supply chain where they would get all this ore from their players, and then once they would fill out a whole contract with somebody, then they would pay them off a tip or a split percentage. That's not usually a good idea. So I would say like just be mindful where your money's going. And then two, yeah, buyback programs are awesome because they give you pretty much instant money. What I did early on is I liked having fast cash. I didn't really like sitting on my ore, so I would try to look for anybody who would buy it for a reasonably price really quick. And as a newbie miner, you know that income that you're getting could assist you with getting an upgrade or getting a skill book and get you fast tracked a lot more faster.
Right.
So
So
I would add if you're looking to
that's
join a
Rundle.
corp. Yeah, it's Rundle. Hey, I jumped in here. Try and have it like a dual role on a mining op, right? There's the Galante uh, industrial ship that has got the specialized cargo hold for ore. The I always screw this name up. The Miasmos. Um,
Yeah.
and for example, and so if you're on a small mining op and that Orca is filling up, then be the guy who's going to jump into that ship and move and offload the Orca and then come back to your retriever or something. You're not likely, if you're a solo player, you're not likely to belly up to some other Orca and say, "Hey, I'll haul your ore for you," because that's a little bit too much risk. You could just fly off with an industrial full of ore. But certainly, if you're joining a corp, be prepared. It's a super simple, easy skill to get. It's fast to get, and maybe the ship isn't super expensive either. So think about dual roles. Think about having opportunity to do, if you're in an Orca, pop into an interceptor and kill rats. It takes a long time for ships to target those rats in the belts and pull drones in and do all that other fun stuff. Sometimes it's even faster if you just 500 meters behind that Orca to load a frigate and target the things and kill them and then pop back and get to mining. Like, think about dual roles. Don't just think I'm just here to mine. That will
That
really help you.
brings up a really good point there because I had mentioned earlier how I'll roll out to a belt with an Orca and four Mackinaws following it. In one of the nice things about the ship maintenance bay in the Orca is it's not restricted just to industrial ships. So I've almost always got a rail catalyst in there just for one of my miners, to any miner that I'm flying with, can hop in there, grab that, switch ships, whack some rats, and get out. I'll also generally have a Demos in there for dealing with the odd gank attempts.
Yeah. This industrial ship, can sit inside the Orca as well. And so what I do is I fly the industrial ship up. I fly usually two pilots. One's in the Orca. I jump into a Hulk, and then I drop this miasmus in and pull a retriever out. And so that retriever pilot, as while I'm sitting there and letting the high yield Hulk and Orca do its thing, when it starts getting full, I just swap this kind of lower skill, retriever pilot back into the industrial, and I empty the Orca, and I just kind of keep moving through belts or whatever it is I'm doing. Now I'm doing that myself, but if someone wanted to join my corp, for example, and said, "Hey, I can do that for you," and they would do that running, that's a great second way to do that.
We used to always, and I still do, if you got somebody, like you just mentioned, a newer player that, well, early on they'd roll out there in an Iteron 3 or a Badger. And if they were the hauler for the mining op, we'd tip them.
Yep.
Straight up. And I still do that to this day when, a newer player's out there and he's like, I'll run your stuff in. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I'll throw some misc at him.
Super important in ice mining ops if you happen to get in a corp that's doing that, because that stuff takes a lot of space.
All right.
So
we heard recently Rattati talking about how there are going to be some changes to not only the Orca, which we knew would come. They needed to kind of nerf that back. Sorry, Khan. I don't know if that hurts your feelings or anything, but
no, not even.
Good. And it hurts my feelings because I just bought an Orca like a few days ago or whenever.
Dang it! You didn't buy it from me. I make those damn things.
I could
have cut you a deal, man.
I'll buy more. Even if they get nerfed, I'll buy more. So the idea was that the Orca is going to get some kind of a change, and so is the Rorqual. So what we found out is maybe move them more towards a boosting. We talked about this a little earlier. More of a boosting personality, a mining director role as opposed to a self-sufficient vessel. So if that happens, do you expect to see something happening on the side of boosting? And is being a mining chief going to be pretty cool in the future compared to what it is now?
I'm not sure. I know when they did the sorry for stepping on you there, man, but when they wanted the Rourke out of the POS where it sat safely to give boosts, so in other words, off-grid boosting was going away, they had to do something to entice people to put that level of expense in a belt. So I think that was why they originally made it so powerful out there, between the invulnerability, the panic module, and then the excavator drones would just shred an area of ore. So I get why they did that, and they're slowly walking it back. Where their next step is really has me curious. I don't even have a good guess at this point, but I would not be surprised on the Orca side if they do something to limit the Orca's ability to use mining drones. Pure speculation on my part, so nobody shoot me. But I've overheard on a number of cases where somebody rolls out there with 10 Orcas and each throwing out 5 mining drones, and then walk away, and they don't like that. So we'll see.
Any thoughts from you guys? Do you think being a mining director is going to be an interesting role in the future, or do you think it'll just be an alt again?
I think it'll be a little bit of the same or what it was before they became oppressive. One thing I do think that the Orca needs is a better way of keeping the fleet members alive. I'm hoping that I don't think they will. But if they were to release maybe like some type of downgraded similar panic module for the people in the fleet, that would give people a little bit more incentive to fly Orcas. But that's just me.
Yeah, I don't think mining means you become a mining director on a career path, because there's some slightly different skills. And if you're maxing your skills for mining and being able to use all the T2 crystals and then refining, and that's probably the path you're going to take, is fly the ships that get the ore, make sure I can use all the crystals, and then make sure that I can do all the refining. That's for me the more normal path. And then all the leadership skills for mining director is usually a secondary character. You probably would not put that on your main mining character, because then you handcuff them into an Orca or something when you really want them in the Hulk or something else, using the variety of crystals to maximize your extraction of ore. So I think just by the nature of how they've already split it up, your mining directors are always going to be an alt anyways on a second account.
Now, if I were CCP and I were looking at that, I would be like, how can we make mining director an actual playable thing? Because that's, you have fleet commanders. They're indispensable to combat. They're tactical chiefs. They're coordinators. They're also creators of content. Maybe you don't need an FC for a mining op necessarily. But if there was some kind of active gameplay they could put into mining director, I think it would be a little more interesting, because I don't see them going back to what they had before. And they're clearly not going to stay where they are now. So what could they do?
I think that's a great question. I think the only way you can adapt that would be to adapt or alter the actual gameplay when you're sitting in the ship. Being in an Orca is a pretty slow-mo thing. It takes forever to target NPCs. It takes forever to target players. It takes forever to target anything. Like, they're slow. Everything that happens is slow. If you were to change and adapt just fundamental how that ship is used, it gave it faster locking abilities, maybe add some weapons, or give that, like you said, that FC that in combat is so critical and is actually has a role of moving people around. If that Orca could be more active and proactive in defense of the fleet, active and proactive in directing the mining of go to this rock, go to this rock, go to that rock, and be more proactive in the ebb and flow of what the fleet is doing, then I think people would be naturally drawn to, I'm actually controlling this whole fleet and defending it as an active participant. But it's a pretty passive thing, and like I said, it's pretty slow-mo. You don't do much other than make sure that the fleet hold doesn't stay, doesn't fill up. You move it to the other areas, and you make sure that the defense elements are there. You either pre-lock the other miners, and if NPCs come around or a ganking squad, then you just pray that you can get things set up fast enough and pull in your drones if you're using mining drones. If you're that worried, you just send out your combat drones and pre-assign them to protect some targets, and then sit back and move ore. That's all you do is move ore. It's pretty low. It's pretty low activity.
Well, I do like the idea of the orchestration role that I would think of in terms of logistics, right? They're orchestrating, even amongst each other, they're orchestrating repairs, distributing them properly. You feel like an octopus with like 8 limbs, and you're going out and you're grabbing ships and you're saving them. And if there was something that could be similar to that with active gameplay choices, that might be interesting.
It's interesting that some folks think there's not. Prior to the moon ore changes in HiSec, when we'd have an op there, we would have 2 or 3 orcas out there, sometimes 4. Each would have no more than 5 miners assigned to them, because to each orca, because that's the maximum an orca can lock. So he would pre-lock his 5 miners, and in one of the highs there was a remote shield repper. So you had your defense there already set up.
Right.
And as far as orchestrating what's going on, that would use the tag system that's already existing in the game, that, letters and numbers, hit them in this order. These are the rocks we're going for in this order.
I did that.
It can be done.
Oh, I did that in HiSec. I had an Orca and 3 skiffs, and I was doing ice mining, and I was ready to go if somebody decided to try to blap one of my skiffs that was out there. And those guys were so fast, I saw them fly up to my Mackinac, I think it was. And before I could find the button to save it, they just blew it up. It was like, so not very effective. Possible, but not very effective. But yeah, the target, I'm thinking more in terms of the target calling, the prioritization of, I don't know, asteroids and all that kind of stuff. I don't think they'll do anything of the sort because it takes a lot of programming. But if they wanted to make mining robust, I think that would be pretty cool for a ton of people who might have left the game or are interested in mining, or people who see that as a promising career in the future? Because right now it's a super passive income unless you really like it.
What if the rocks fought back? Right.
And
In
explode.
essence, like, yeah, I just say it that way. But like, if there was just, think about when mining happens here in real life, right? There's a lot of wear and tear on the machinery, on the people. They're down. It's not just the crystals and the mining, the bits being
You're
used. The
right.
whole thing is being used,
Like an
right?
asteroid
So,
blows up and fragments
right,
hit your ship
there's
and destroy
all
it.
sorts of that, and just the
That's what-
process of mining and dragging these things to your ship. Your ship is slowly taking damage, and so if you're a director, then so that means you have to fit if you're a solo player, you have to fit your ships a little bit differently and have some sort of repair system on board. But if you're a mining director, now you're responsible for not only fleet protection from NPCs and other players, but your job is just what you said, that health management aspects of your fleet. And so you can become a very busy person if you're managing shields or armor of 3, 4, 5, 6 people in your mining fleet. I mean, that could be a way to adapt the game without really, maybe breaking too much.
You guys see The Expanse and how deadly rocks are in space, right? Like, yeah. So it's pretty interesting. I like the idea of maybe the Orca becomes a movie projecting ship that puts Netflix up in space, so you can stay in game and watch your Netflix. So
One thing I think CCP might be doing with the resource distribution is, now that the nerf for the orcas are coming, I don't know, this is just me. I feel like eventually they might increase the yield for the high sec Velspar rocks, maybe, hoping, crossing fingers, because the only reason they had decreased it, I feel like, was just because of the abundance of orcas in the belts. The lower the M3, the more you have to target and assign drones. But if they were to be nerfed, I feel like it would be a good time to increase the yield of those rocks, because there will be more barges out there at that point.
Yeah, what ship has come out a lot during this conversation is the Porpoise. Tell us what that ship does and why miners are interested in it.
Well, just one of the guys in chat mentioned, he doesn't want his procurer blown up because of an exploding rock. I get that. So don't get too close and mine Mercoxic today, because that's been
That's
doing
right.
that forever.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Gas also has similar, don't the gas pockets, or maybe they used to? Doesn't gas also have some sort of negative impact?
I kind of think that's true. I'm not qualified to say. That sounds familiar. Mercoxic, I think, was gas from Mercoxic rocks that hurt you, so it might.
And, I don't recall how much damage it was. It wasn't terribly impressive, but if you were unaware of it, it could be pretty frightening.
That alone, just that is so interesting, right? It adds an element of risk, even if it was a little damage. Just hearing that was something that could happen made it more interesting than it is now. I don't know.
Yeah, people are confirming gas does as well. So yeah,
Okay.
that sort of behavior, then your mining directors in these areas that are already having to do that active, and so if you want that sort of activity to come to
That's brilliant.
To high sec, they already have the mechanics, right?
Yeah.
Let
me just say, Rundle, you're really on to something here, because the and you guys are all on to this, and that is your mining director becomes the logistics for your mining fleet that has to go in and bore through these rocks that is very dangerous solo. So it's almost like a skiff would require either a really strong tank or a logistics through a capital ship to protect it while it does its work. That's amazing.
I kind of forgot about it. So on the Porpoise, it's just the mid ground for, between an Orca and a Rorqual, so you can have your boosts and have a little bit more of a mobile ship. I think it was primarily focused more on wormholes, if I remember correctly, just so you can move through the wormhole connections without, rolling a hole by accident by taking a massive ship through. Stuff like that, as I recall. I'm not the Porpoise expert by far, but I made a few and sold some, if that counts.
Porpoises are cool little ships. They're like the little brother of orcas. You don't get a ship maintenance bay. Fleet hangars massively downgraded. The cargo holds massively downgraded, but you could still fit. I think you can fit 2 boosters with max tank, and I think it has like 70-ish K of ore. So if you wanted to, with a fleet of barges, you could either like drop your own tractor unit and just have them drop cans, and you can just pick the ore up from the tractor unit, put it directly into your ore, and it's cheap enough to where if you were to lose it, you could obviously replace it. Versus the Orca, it's like almost a billion. No, I think it's over a billion now. You can get a porpoise for 70 mil. I think that's what they
Oh,
are.
so cheap compared.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, they're yeah. Let me find it. I had just had it pulled up. Build cost on with the mineral changes. Current build cost alone in minerals for a porpoise, if you have a well researched blueprint, is about 93 million.
Yeah. Something that Ormius brought up I thought was really cool, and that is give Orca explosive decompression that allows them to weaponize their payload. I love that idea. That is awesome. Combine that with the logistics thing, like so you can defend your fleet against predator players, but your main job is to heal it or protect it from the asteroids that they're boring into. Like that just all works together pretty well. If they could do something like that with some new skills, that would be something else.
And in the audience, Plagueist, he's got another really good one. Maybe instead of the ship taking damage, that the strip miners themselves take some sort of heat damage or secondary damage that the Orca does, since overheating isn't available, and you'd have to restrict nanopaste, or maybe nanopaste is fine for the solo miner. And so you got to, maybe that's another market for the nanite paste. I'm doing the short end of it.
Yeah.
So
You're just slower.
Like
you're just slower unless you have a mining director that can fire extinguish your butt.
Yeah, get your modules back on track without. Yeah, there's
thing. I just kind of reading the comments in chat, and a lot of folks, and more than once, has said, "Oh, note to self." Space Gator's probably joking halfway, but note to self: sell the Orca before the nerf. Everybody's assuming a nerf on the Orca. It may not be. They could be going the other direction completely on it. So, and we just don't have an idea yet.
They're going to change it.
If you want to dump your Orca cheap, give me a call and I'll let you know.
Don't want to put you out of business. They're going to change it. They may actually change it in an interesting way to make it more desirable, and then it goes up in value.
Well, but it's not going to be desirable for people who multi-box. So that's why people are seeing it as a devalue, because those multi-boxers, they're not going to keep them after that, or they're not going to use them because they'll just go to the next thing, which will probably be the porpoise. So you will see a dip in price because people won't be buying them as much. Well, the people, like, me, for example, they won't be buying them as much because they won't be desirable, because the main selling point for them was it's easy, cheap, reliable AFK activity. And even if it's a very amazing buff, once you shift it from that role, people will go to the next thing, and that price will fluctuate based off of the need, based off of all that other stuff.
Well, I agree that a couple things here. I agree that when you're doing AFK gameplay, people will buy multiples of a ship. So you may have like 14 Orcas because you can handle that many. And if you transition their role to an active gameplay role, you can't handle that many, or it's not as easy to handle that many. So you will buy less per capita per person. At the same time, when they announced they were going to change the Rorqual, it took them 2 years to adjust it. It's a hard ship to adjust. So this may not happen for a while. They want to, doesn't mean it's going to happen anytime soon. One thing I want to do real quick is go back to a question I left behind. It's just a little fun question for you guys. Can you ask, this is from Beta Solos. Can you ask, when you're on a mining opt, what's your favorite side game to play? He says Boulder Dash is theirs.
Yeah, for me, I don't usually play a side game. I usually listen to sort of music.
Yeah, I don't either.
Moving ore in that damn Orca. and out of the Hulk because you only have like 3 cycles and your Hulk's full. So that's and then the Orca can fill up pretty fast too. So yeah, I don't really play side games.
We talked about
I'm
this.
kind of with you on that. I don't side game either. I do music in the background, same thing. Mostly it's chatting with other miners, and I'm definitely lazier than you. One of the reasons I use a Mackinac because it's got that big ore hold, so I don't have to drag as often. But I'm such a paranoid still, even after all this time. I pay attention constantly to what's happening.
That's funny.
My side game is Eve, I guess.
Yeah, somebody watches Talking in Stations while they mine. Nice.
That's great news.
That's why we don't play music on this show, so that you can listen to your own music while you listen to us, because we realize you're overlapping us with different things. I do want to go back to, I forgot the question. It was, no, it slipped away.
Ask a question. Let me ask a question while you look that up. I was just curious. There was a comment made last night, and maybe I missed this at the beginning because I was unable to attend right away. But what's the big reason that so much mining is happening in Minmatar space right now? Like, what's the big draw? Did you answer that earlier on?
We just talked about why Minmatar space was hot, but maybe there's a different angle on it.
Astraeos Khan, I'm wondering if you have a.
I honestly don't. I honestly don't have an answer for that. I'm really not too sure. Some people may just see it as a gold rush because it's really still a ton of space that people aren't, or systems, excuse me, that people aren't actively mining in, and you can kind of get it all to yourself. Or just the markets are cheap to buy here. I'm thinking that people are just buying it in bulk and then just transporting it to like Jita or Ren's because you can buy it out here cheaper. But other than those two things, I'm not really too sure.
I wasn't sure if it was because of the balancing and there was something that happened that I don't know, maybe Tar Space got a little more of something or another. But if it's just the player ebb and flow, then that makes sense.
Yeah, I had the same question. There's something really hot about Minmatar space right now. I'm trying to figure out what it is too, and I don't know. It could be that the militia was just Edencom was so strong there. They didn't allow Triglavians to take a lot of systems into Poshfin, and somehow that led to momentum. I'm not sure.
That's very possible. You're also far enough from the major trade routes that you're not camped very often either there. So you've got kind of the best of both worlds. Fairly empty systems, you can resource gather, and you've got a market that's been slowly growing and getting more robust. That's very attractive.
Yeah, I think that's the answer, actually. It's the Silk Road. We call it the Silk Road, but it's basically Poshfin interrupting Niarja, which was the connection point between two major trade hubs. When that broke, it created a Silk Road a long way around to get to all the trade hubs. And I think I remember, it might have been Ratati saying something along the lines of they like the distribution patterns that created. I think I remember hearing that.
Makes sense. It sounds like the audience is kind of agreeing with that as well. That's kind of zeroing in on which that makes perfect sense. So I appreciate the answers.
Yeah, Tech Crisis in the chat also pointed out one other thing I forgot to mention was that they were so aggressive in defending the Edencom side that in all those Edencom controlled systems, there's mining buffs.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I want to say it's 10% to yield. I could be wrong on that, so somebody in chat correct me if I'm off.
Well, yeah, and Edencom is very strong in Minmatar space, right? I think that's pretty well known. Arcia was an FC for, is it Electus Matari or Matari Electus? What is it?
Electus
Matari, yeah. And are they faction war or are they just Minmatar role playing?
Some of their organization is still in faction warfare, yeah.
Yeah, and so she's an FC for them, but she's also one of the lead FCs for Edencom. So there's a close relationship between those two groups. So that's very interesting.
Honestly, forgot about the mining buff. Yeah, Damelin actually.
Oh, you cut out there. Say again.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot all about the mining buff. Yeah, Damelin's one of those systems that gets the mining buff as well.
Right.
Really the mining buff, but think about it. You're in a shield tank ship, like all the ore ships are, and there's also a 10% shield bonus.
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Rubicon, for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's good stuff from the chat there. There's another thing though. We looked at markets and the monthly economic report, and it really was JITA like all the way. Like things are still transacting in JITA, and Amar was not any more robust than it used to be. That's the second biggest trade hub. So Amar has really not fulfilled its potential, or what we thought would happen when Nyarja went away. But I can't remember being impressed by Heck or Renz or even Dodixie that much on the monthly economic report. So I don't know, does the ore make it to the market, or are people just using contracts to trade things and just build things off market?
I think a lot of it's just being sold between contracts and then just sent somewhere else.
That's amazing. So it might be a hot area for industry, but you wouldn't see it reflected in the marketplace because everything's being traded privately.
Yeah, because you don't have to. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. Sorry.
All I was just going to say is you don't have to worry about the tax if you directly trade with somebody versus putting it on the market. You have to worry about the tax whenever you put like a little market transaction on Indo Dixie or Heck or Renz.
You'll have to look at when the economic report comes out. There's there's some of the other elements of the economic report that show the distribution of the movement of items through space. Does that track ore leaving as well, like being mined? So there's the amount of ore taken out of space and the amount of ore being out of the region too, right? So maybe
import,
there's
exports.
a correlation there. Yeah, import exports. That's what I was saying. Thank you. So maybe there's a correlation there where some of those regions that you're like, hey, you weren't impressed with it, but they might have, in those areas around there in Minmatar space, have high export values that have jumped up over the last couple of months.
Well, that wouldn't even account for stuff that stays in system, which would be interesting. But I don't know if there's a measurement for wealth in system. Usually, yeah, that's interesting. We'll have to look at it. Again, what we hear from players are that Minmatar space, something really cool is happening there. I'm not sure. Khan, I was going to join you, man. And I still want to actually fly down and hang out with the Dam fam. I still intend to.
Hey, man, there's plenty of room. If you want to come on down, we'll get you sorted.
Yeah. And one last question, going back all the way to the beginning where we talked about you becoming an industrialist after having a career in faction warfare with the Minmatar, and as an industrialist, still doing your bit to supply them with the minerals they need to build the ships in order to defend their empire. How much do you produce? How much quantity do you mine? How much do you give them? How beneficial are you or your group to Minmatar faction war?
Well, to Ushra'Khan, since Ushra'Khan's kind of got a little bit better on their own as far as industry goes, we're not giving them like a ton of what we mine as much, but there are special projects that we do me personally, there are special projects that we do that we just donate to Ushra'Khan. A few months ago, there was a little project that I worked on, basically building 9 dreadnoughts, and I did that all by myself. Still working on the fittings, but it's just things like that I personally just pick tasks to do, and just go from there. DemFam's pretty flexible with its members. Like, we don't force anybody to do something that they want to do, so we usually have our own things that we're doing within the group. But there are 2 corporations that also builds and produces ships for Ushra'Khan that we basically also donate or sell to them at a cheaper price. But as far as the militia goes, since everybody kind of does their own thing, we're not really helping the overall militia as much.
Mhm.
It's more or less just Ushra'Khan, either by helping in nullsec, helping in CTA. We also have PvPers that help with stuff, but mostly, like I said, just projects here and there, and just supporting with PvP now.
Yeah. Damelin is pretty close to Amamaki. Is it dangerous area to be in?
Not really. And Amamaki's not what it used to be back in the day. You can pretty much go in and out of there. Most days it's not camped. And even so, you could. Oh, go ahead.
No, please finish.
I was just gonna say, there's always going back door if you wanted to get in via Osaka or Amamaki. You can go via Bossburger, and
that's through Cinq Liaison, isn't it?
I don't know the region actually.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a really weird region because it's Minmatar space. But you know what? I'll stop talking.
Remember when they added connections, because there used to only be one way in and out of there, but they added. I think there's like 3 different connection constellations they reconnected. I don't know, 10, 12, 8 years ago, somewhere in there.
Let's have a look at the map here because I like this area a lot. It's weird how you get into it.
The connections aren't actually on the Eve Regions universe map still, at least the version I have. That's how
you're behind.
That's how old I still use the Eve Regions maps.
Yeah, Damelin's up here. We're looking at it color coded by how many belts are in system. You can see where the heavy duty belts are here, 26, and low sec 22 over here, and 12 here. So it's kind of a nice area, I guess. Got some ice nearby. But this is Amamaki right here, and it's definitely a choke point for this triangle. And this triangle is where a lot of faction war happens, but Amamaki is also Pandemic Legion's traditional home. They used to go there to vacation to relax and kill some things in low sec. Way back, even before probably the faction war started. But if you go down here, Cinq Liaison's connected down here by Seaside, see? And if you click on that...
Which I live just on the other side of that.
Yeah, I did not too far. We're probably neighbors. But you can see you come into... where'd you come into? You come into here. Oh, no, it's Gel. You come into Gel, this area over here. Yeah. I got killed by Hydra here one time. I was like, man, is that all you do is pick on low sec? Whatever.
Egelhen there, that was where I don't even remember what year it was, but that's where I built my first carrier. And I was mining in Galente space just on the other side of Gel, in Erdene and Brybeer. And that's where I did like almost all my mining to get and then produce it. And then I was sneaking the components into low sec because I was terrified to get it to the station so I could build the carrier.
Wild. Yeah, so it's connected right here. And Gel, that's what I was thinking of. So I'm in the wrong area, but Gel here used to be it was like the second most popular system in Cinq Liaison behind Dodixie because it has a ton of agents. You can see all these guys. There's a ton of agents here. So a lot of players that were doing missions, you want to go to those agent-heavy or station-heavy systems because that's where the agents were that you would get work from. So Gel for a long time was a nice place. It had good proximity to a mining colony, which is every shore. And then, again, you had access to the other side of the gate, which is Minmatar space, which is right here. And I did not realize this, but you were really close to Rennes at that point, right? I did not realize how close that was. It's just too dangerous to really do commerce between Amamaki and this whole triangle and Rennes. So normally you don't think of this Cinq Liaison connection as kind of a transit route for commerce. But you could if you wanted to put on some stabs, as we talked about earlier, some warp core stabilizers to keep you from getting tackled. And if you were fast enough, you could maybe go back and forth. But usually only small ships can make it because even if they can't catch you, they can probably blow you up before you can align and warp out.
Or you could just fly. I think it's the blockade runners that can fit cloaks, right?
Yeah. It doesn't carry very much, but if you're...
Yes.
But that works.
Blockade runners.
I've actually run back and forth through there with an Akator, which has a natural stab of 2, throw 2 more on it, and try the old, scout it, obviously, and use the cloak warp trick.
Yeah.
It's that connection. It's that connection there, that Egmar to Gomorgo. That's new.
Gormagod.
Gomorgod or whatever it is. Yeah.
That's new.
That one's new, new-ish,
It's
relative to
10
when
years, but you were here
Yeah.
before 10 years. So.
That's the Eve Regions map I use.
Yeah, I was not living. I lived in Gel near that area, but I also lived in, and nobody cares where I lived. But I want to talk about geography of Sinclair. But this here is an industrial park. You can see there's a lot of build stations and a lot of industry to be had here. There's also good mining or fair mining. Also, really good access to PI in this low sec pocket here. This is not a pocket, but low sec area. So this was kind of a nice place to build. And then you're really about 4 or 5 jumps from Dodixie, so you could sell your stuff at that market. Or if you wanted to, you could move over to Valor, where faction warfare people shop. And that was something that could be done for a while. But, maybe we should talk at some point, talk about EVE Online's regions and talk about like what their characteristics are, because every region has, not everyone, but a lot of them have industrial parks. Actually, I think Sinclair Zone has 2. It has a research park over here. I think there's a research agent here in for core or something. Yeah. And then you're all familiar with Bazgaran lately because there was a Keepstar in there, but no more. That's gone. But yeah. Anyway, God, I miss high sec and exploring the map and trying to figure out where to do supply lines and industry and what markets to use and all that kind of stuff. That was fun. All right. You guys have anything else you wanted to discuss while we were here? I didn't think so.
Any last minute questions from the chat?
I'm sorry. Yeah, last minute questions from chat. I'm sorry I missed a few questions. I meant to go back to them, but there's a few got past me there. But we'll do it again. I think. Let's see. I did a DST run in Wildlands. No, that was scary. I did a DST run. That is scary. I did a DST run, which is a deep space transport through Rancer, because I thought, again, I had it all figured out, and there was a huge cheap pile of tritanium, and I thought, that is so cheap. That is really cheap. I'm going to buy it all, and then I'll take a deep, a DST to go and pick it up at downtime. And I got nailed. So it was a trap. I bet you the pirates of Rancer themselves put the tritanium there to attract me.
One thing that actually just gave me an idea for, if there are people who are interested in trading, there's a cool little website that I had used earlier on before mining. I think it was called like Eve Trade or something like that. You can search it on Google, but basically if you type in on the website, it gives you an option to do region to region trading, or region. Well, basically it works like this. It shows you
station to station.
Systems. Yeah, so there's one for when I say station, I'm region, I mean station. So say for example, if you set it up, it'll show you. Sorry, you would set your starting location. Say for example, if I'm in Rins as Rins, and then you set it up to Jita, it would tell you all the items that you could buy in that system for cheap and take it to Jita and make a profit off of. So kind of like a cool little gameplay is if you have like a character who does hauling, you can go on the website. It allows for inter-region trading, and it would show you like commodities or items that you can buy in a certain system and take it to another system to sell it.
Yeah, what's interesting is for newer players, these are very new players. This is what he's talking about, by the way. It tells you a list of what's for sale and the difference in price between the two places. So a net profit for this item here might be 11 million, but the quantity is only 1, so you'd have to like shop around. But that is really cool. I can make that a little smaller so it could be seen. Yeah,
I did that for a while. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I believe that is regional market trading, where you buy in one region and you take it to a different region where that item would be more expensive and you sell it there. You can find that gameplay in like Elite Dangerous as well, I believe. But here, it's always been here, and it's always been kind of cool to do.
Yeah, I got the idea from Marky Dragon when he did a little live stream a little while back, and I mean, if you do it, you know, smart. I don't want to say smartly. That's not the word I'm looking for. But if you do it like, um, cautiously, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and you're running your numbers and you're making sure that the items are there and you're checking the price when you get to the locations, you can make some decent money. Especially when you're moving like high volume items like ammo or materials. And you could set it to Dodexi to Rens and you could just keep running back and forth.
Yeah. Arbitrage. It's a good name. That's what it was. I think that's what it is. I think that's what the regional trading is, arbitrage. One last thing about that DST that I ran through, Deep Space Transport. It's a big ship. It has a big cargo. It's got a big tank, and it's also immune to being tackled, or it has like 3 points or 2 points or something like that. At least it did a long time ago. So I was thinking that I wouldn't be able to be tackled, and it had a big cargo. What I didn't know, and this is how they killed me, is that it can easily be bumped. So when pirates saw me on gate, I didn't even have a chance because they rammed me right away, and that was like totally disrupted my warp path, and so I couldn't get out, and at that point I was a sitting duck. So that's when I learned the lesson of bumping. I hadn't actually ever experienced bumping before, but yeah, it was early on.
That's a rough way to learn that.
Yeah. I'm still mad at that system. Like, I still have a grudge against that system for being bumped. I had no idea what that meant.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any good DST stories. I just have a multi-boxing with an Iteron 4 story. I had loaded it with about 1.5 bill worth of stuff, and should have been easy little run, 4 systems, but I was multi-boxing and I got caught up on another character doing something. I don't even remember what it was, something stupid, and I totally forgot about my primary mission, which was moving this 1 point whatever billion worth of stuff. And I come back and I'm like, my pod's sitting there, and I'm like, what the just happened? I'd given them like 15 minutes, probably maximum, and in 15 minutes they ganked me. Just sitting there in space because I decloaked. I'd already gated through and was sitting on the other side, just sitting there. La-di-da. Free kill.
I've got a funny story too if we've got time. Back in the day, I keep saying back in the day, give or take 5 years ago, when when I was in faction warfare, there was a system called Camella that we were capturing, and I had an alternate character that I was bringing in Sino inhibitor in. So, this character wasn't in fleet, so I made sure that everybody in the fleet knew, hey, I'm coming in on a neutral hauler, don't shoot it or whatever. Long story short, I bring the hauler to the what do we call it now? The infrastructure hub. I land it, and somebody kills me. And everybody's in the fleet like, why'd you kill him? Why'd you kill him? Why'd you kill him? Comes to we and then sooner afterwards, just to get to it, we ended up getting hot dropped, and I didn't realize it at the time, but the person who actually got killed us was a spy. So they were kind of waiting for me to come out there and land with it, and they ended up killing the whole fleet. Nobody was able to get away, and they were able to defend the system. So I thought it was pretty funny. Anyways,
That was a spy who was on top of his game at that moment.
Yeah,
He's like, not let this happen.
yeah, man, it's
one last question. Oh, Nick, go ahead.
Question came out of the chat from
Yeah.
Rubicon.
That's the one I was going to read. Go ahead.
Yeah, wanted to know why the price of Trit hasn't risen higher. Well, initially it did spike. It was in the 810 section per unit, where it was down at 4. We've settled to somewhere right now back around 5.25, 5.5, depending on where you're at. My personal thought on that is one of two things. A lot more folks in the high sec where Trit is mined are out there doing it. And between that and folks that are, may have been sitting on quite a bit of it and went, holy crap, I can start selling this off now. And those two things together, I think, is why the price has been driven back down some.
Yeah, you're paraphrasing, I think, the reason: supply and demand. There wasn't a run on supply, and the demand is there, but the supply has risen as well. So the price has actually dropped because that's all you can mine in high sec, more or less. There's a ton of trit coming out of high sec now, so there's a big supply. And while the demand may have gone up, the supply is equally matched, and so actually overmatched. That's what I think.
Well, it's not the only mineral that you can get out of high sec. Don't forget
no.
the point.
Primary one though, right? So people are when you go to the belts, what's the first thing to be gone, right? All the valley, all the belts are gone, right? It's the first.
It is, even though it's not the only thing available, it is the only thing universally available in all of high sec.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but
No, good clarification, brother. Appreciate it.
Right.
That's my take on it.
Yeah. Anything? I'll say. I think we brought this up earlier, but I don't know if we really covered it. But have you felt you're not in nullsec? Either one of you guys at mine and Rundle. I think you're recently back to EVE Online, right?
A couple of years now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it's been a while. So, but you two guys do mining a lot. You weren't in nullsec, so I imagine blackout didn't really affect you. But ever since blackout, the scarcity age, has that affected you in any way? I can imagine that your prices have gone up and you're able to sell or more pricing and stuff. But I wonder if there's more than just that.
I was not affected adversely by scarcity until the high sec moon ore changes. That's what really, because I could no longer get everything I needed where I was at or within a small area of travel. I'm now granted I'm what I had stockpiled, like I'd mentioned yesterday. I'm getting toward the very end of it, so a lot of the high ends I've got to start reestablishing my connections with folks in Null to see if I can get any.
What about you, Khan?
As far as the income goes, how easy it was before, that did affect me because, it's not as profitable as it was to mine the moon ore, and then, belt ores are fine, but I've always kind of, let me just word it like this. I've always kind of been adaptable with my mining. So I was kind of adjusted to having to go out and try other things, and in a lot of ways, I used ice mining for a while to supplement my income. And this is an advantage for me because I don't actually have to produce anything. All I have to really do is just make sure that my time is, getting its investment as far as my activity that I choose. So, I don't feel like the scarcity hurt me as much because if I ever wanted to, I could just go 10 jumps, mine some ice, and that's 400 mil. So yes, in a way, it affected me because I can't just sit in the same system and just farm all day. Um, but no, because as far as activities goes, I've already kind of adapted to mining in low sec. I've already got some things in place to mine in null sec now, so I've kind of adapted in the long run.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like it was a big concern to you guys. Maybe Nick with the moon ore changing.
I mean, it was. We lost a lot of people that were primarily there for the moon ore.
Oh wow!
They ended up being the greatest. Yeah, I mean, DemFam was big back in the day. We weren't an actual alliance at the time, but we had like a whole bunch of corporations that lived in the system and they took advantage of the free moon mining activities. But when that all hit the tank, a lot of people left. So we did see a lot of people fall off. But as far as the core members, no, I think if anything, we've actually made more money than we were before.
So it's been good for business, but have the people come back or are they still gone?
They're gone. The people that left, they took their citadels down and they left.
So they were done. And that was the moon mining changes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a few months afterwards.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where they weren't making enough money to pay for the field. So they just took them down and they did something else.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that decimated a lot of corporations in wormhole space. Apparently it was really hard on them too, but it sounds like it was hard on you guys as well.
Yeah, that was primarily our main source of income for a while, was the moons. And, once that got axed, we all had to kind of reconsolidate, figure out which moons were worth having, and look at other activities to help with fuel management and all that stuff. But as soon as we kind of got that established, because, one thing about DamFam is we're actually mostly miners, so we're able to basically get out there in the weeds and do what we need to handle things. And we also have like a really great small core collection of builders who, they're more than happy to do reactions and build stuff for us. But once we kind of got all that consolidation done, where we looked at which moons were worth having, how much were we spending on all this, we were able to continue forward and keep doing what we needed to do.
So you looked at your budgets and you were still in the black. So you're like, okay, let's continue.
Yeah, deep in the black. We were kind of outweighing. So DamFam was more of like a charity at the start. We basically had the moons to help people who didn't have the capability to make money, so we would allow people to mine there for free, But once it got to the point where not only were we not making as much money, but we were actually spending money because nobody was out there mining, yeah, we had to kind of come together. That's actually how the alliance got started after the moon mining change had happened. We formed the alliance because we needed to create a council, create some type of leadership to look at things. And we looked at it and we were like, yeah, man, this isn't worth having. Let's X that off. Yeah, this isn't worth having. Why do we have this? Why do we have this alt corporation we never talk with that isn't fueling the structure? And then kind of once we got that, we became a little bit more better in the long run.
I love that. That's good management. Cut off the stuff's not working. All right. Well, we've gone extra long today, hour 40, but it was well worth it. I could talk about this for another hour, but I guess in the interest of just keeping the shows around hour and a half, we should go. You guys have any thing you want to say before we take off?
No, like you, I could talk about this sort of stuff. But to me, this is the heartbeat of Eve, and is actually fascinating. I really like these sort of things. Talking about regions, the ebb and flow of product, how people can fulfill these different roles. That for me, it's not just all about war. I love the PvP and the war aspect, but to me, this is the breadth. We talked about this a little bit last night. How new players can come in and really make impact, a little bit of impact, and have a diversified gameplay style. I love this topic. So. But yeah, we should stop. Otherwise, I'll egg you on.
Rubicon is too. He's like, keep going.
I've got something that I want to add. If anybody's looking for, moon ores, I kind of offered the pathway for Matterall, but we've got moons that pop daily that not a lot of people are touching right now. So if you're interested, you don't have to be in the alliance. You don't have to sell to us. Just go ahead and take advantage of it. You could type it in DAMM on the search bar. It'll pop up, and just head out there. And if you're in local, just say like, "Hey, Khan from Talking in Stations, send me this way," and we'll get you set up with station rights and all this stuff.
That way, good. So you can use facilities if you use the password. We'll call the password "friend of Matterall," or actually in this case, "friend of Khan." That's in Damelin, which is in Minmatar near Rennes. DAMM. That's what it starts with.
Only thing I want to say is some great stuff come out of the chat today. Some good questions and comments. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. It sounds like a trap. LOL. That's pretty funny. I'm going to make my way out there too, so I'll be hanging out, doing some stuff out there. What else did I want to say? There was something else. Oh yeah, some of the usual plugging that we should do. Really, we should do this like every show. But if you guys want to get your news in game, there is a newspaper that we put out every weekday. Actually, we try to do it every day, but we at least get 5 days a week and then take the weekend off. But sometimes we put a paper out for the weekend. You can get that in game by using your mail list, which you can find in your mail window. At the bottom left, there's mail lists. If you click on that, there's an add new. You would want to add this word or these words, TIS news. And if you add that, you'll be able to get a newspaper delivered to you every day. It just has a summary of the news. It's literally a 2-minute read, and you're good. Also want to say that you are watching Talking in Stations. We also have a weekend edition, which is a panel of experts. Khan's one of them. And we talk about the game, everything that happened during the week. And we review some of the stuff that we talk about during these daily shows. But we also go really deep into details. And we do about 2 hours nonstop, really, really dense shows with a ton of information. So check those out. And you can find that at talkinginstations.com, or better yet, find the podcast edition on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can find these shows, they're called Newsday, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well, if you just want to hear this while you're driving around or exercising or doing something like that. And then there was one last thing. Tomorrow we're starting a new show. It's not a daily show, but it's going to be 3 times a week. And it is essentially an open talk show in that there'll be EVE Online talk and everything around EVE Online, and even a little bit about the financials of the industry itself, the gaming industry, I should say electronic entertainment industry, but it's a little more open. It's not just pure EVE, pure news. It's more of a discussion group for Europeans because it's going to happen at their prime time. So that'll be in about 12 hours. And then look for that show to go on every three days a week or so. And the people that will be there will be McLeod, Caleb, and Dr. Spod, those guys, and they'll have games. Yes, they'll talk about metagames. They'll talk about metagaming. They'll talk about all kinds of things. They will talk about the war. Both McLeod is from the Initiative, and Caleb, I don't think he's from Goonswarm, but he represents their point of view pretty well. He's admired them, and Spod is his own man with his own corporation and stuff, but he's familiar with a lot of things, including history and Providence and stuff like that. So good guys, smart guys talking about ideas, and they'll have guests and everything else. That show will start tomorrow, Friday. And then here's the big announcement. Tomorrow I'm going to record, not at this time, but I will be playing it around this time, an interview with the spy that infiltrated Guardians of the Galaxy and became a really deep sleeper agent, and was able to really do a lot of damage when she was over there. So we'll be talking with her. I'll probably bring back Rich
Richmond.
Yeah, Rich Richmond. And we'll have, and also, I forgot his name, from Test. I want to say Whiskers or Caniskar or something. Caniskar or something. It's so close. But he'll be there too, I believe. So we'll have a discussion about what that operation was like, what spying is like, what were some of the most interesting things that happened during that whole infiltration, which took a long time and ended only after the destruction of Guardians of the Galaxy. They were known as Dead Coalition by the time they were destroyed, but yeah.
Did you mean Ashter? Is that what you meant?
The person that was
with Rich and I joined. It was Ashter something.
No,
I can see the name.
It was. I'll tell you right now because I should plug it properly. I just wasn't doing it right. It is Kornak. Yeah, Kornak. So he's from Test. He actually ran for CSM a couple of years ago too. So nice guy. We'll bring him on, and then the spy will come on as well. And her name, just so you guys can look her up, do some work, is Maya. And Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Another spy episode tomorrow on Talking in Stations should be cool. Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate you hanging out with us. I want to say, Rundle, thanks, and Khan, always good talking to you. You always have such a laid-back presentation, Khan, that you make me relax, and I'm one of the most relaxed people, in this game.
It's so funny. I'm far from relaxed right now. I've kind of calmed down, but at the beginning of the stream, I was a little bit nervous. So it's happy to hear that.
Were you freaking out or something?
I'm always kind of nervous getting on stream, so I was a little bit, anxious, but not really freaking out. No.
Don't worry. In no time you'll be a veteran like Rundle there. And Nick, thanks for stopping by again, and thank you guys for giving us great questions, great material to work off of, and it's been nice hanging out with you guys. We will see you next time on Talking in Stations.